Placid, New York, and the legendary track at Mount Van Hoevenberg, home of the 1932 and the 1980 Olympic Games. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this one. It is the second run of the men's skeleton. I'm Nick Gismondi alongside Bree Schaaf, bringing you this one. A very exciting, very cold day in Lake Placid. Let's take a look at what happened back in the first runs. This is Frank Rommel, third place at the 54.13.
Rommel is someone that's had great success on this track, and he, of course, can do it again.
So a 54.13 for Rommel. He will look to improve on that one. He will be going, obviously, third to last, and it was the Americans that went 1 and 2. John Daly was in second place after his first run of 53.93.
He's had a bit of a slow start to the season, and this is just what Daly needs to boost that confidence going into the rest of the season.
He said that the Americans need and have to do well on this track. It's their home track. He's been here for 13 years, and he's been doing it with this guy, his friend and training partner. This is Matthew Antoine, the other American who is in that first position with a 53.89.
So great to see Matt in this position. He's coming off of a knee surgery that made him struggle a bit last year, and this is something that's really going to boost him looking forward.
So Matthew Antoine is your leader. John Daly is in that second position, and Frank Rommel from Germany will round things off. Other names you got to look out for. We'll talk about it when we see the start list, but there's a couple guys with the last name of Dukers that you don't want to overlook, and a very, very tough Russian. You'll see him in that fourth spot. That is Alexander Trechikov. Not to be overlooked are any of those top 10.
No, especially those Dukers brothers. I mean, those guys dominate, and it's really curious to see one that's, you know, especially Martin's not leading a race, so not sure what happened there. We'll see. He's one that could really pop up a few spots.
The top 20 advance on from heat number 2. That was 7 sliders not making that move. A little bit of wind kicking up there at the finish line as you get a look at the weather conditions. It has held pretty much throughout the day. It is going to be very cold overnight. Little wind right now. How do these conditions play themselves out on this track?
This bitter cold makes things, it puts an interesting texture on the ice. The colder it gets, the ice actually starts to get sticky, which makes it tougher at the start. Can help your steering down, but when you've got snow drifts blowing in, if you've got any sort of winds, that's going to destabilize the track and make athletes break into skid easier.
This is the start list for that second run. You're getting a look at it here. Obviously, reverse order from what we had in that first run. So you'll see those Americans coming up in the last few heats. Frank Rommel will be in there in that third heat. And, you know, really about to be a very exciting run. You've got some pretty impressive candidates here. Mostly take a look at that last 6 or 7. There's a lot of room for some play in this. Kyle Tress, the other American, he's got a chance to maybe jump up and find a podium if he has a good run on this track.
This would be a huge, huge finish for him. He struggled a little bit as well in the first couple races.
All right, we will get you right now to the start, where Yuki Sasahara from Japan will be kicking things off for the men in this final run. 20 competitors. He had a 54.97 in heat number 1 on the sled built by Bromley. We'll see if he improves on his first run start time of 5.35.
It's always got to be tough to have a sled, you know, built by someone that's still sliding, and you know that they're saving the best equipment for themselves. I mean, it's still great equipment, so you're going to take it regardless, but you're always going to be wondering, ooh, I wish I had his 210s.
Talking about Kristen Bromley, who will be going in that 6th position from Great Britain. We'll see him. Start time here of 5.24, so a good one for Sasahara. He starts off a little quicker than he did in that first run.
You know, there can be huge motivation. There's so many nerves going into the first heat that a lot of times it just gets you so shaky and just kind of off your game. And then you have, once the first heat is done and you know exactly where things are, it's all those unknowns. You're not sure where things are going to line up. Once you know that, you know, you can really attack the second heat.
73 miles an hour. It has to be tough going first when you know you are setting that pace. Nothing really to gauge yourself against.
No, I mean, you could have, you know, a run that appears to be flying, but maybe the track sped up, so you just got to kind of hang out and wait and see how things play.
All right, so a 1:49.64 for Sasahara. Gets the thumbs up and a little hand clap from the coach right there. That will put the numbers out. And again, a 1:49.64. He is our first slider. So a 54.67 second run time, an improvement on what he did in round 1. Here's another look.
So watch as he comes to the chicane. He's Almost got it, but a lot of times you could be lacing it, but then just your thoughts of avoiding a wall can break you into a skid.
58 terrifying seconds, if you ask me.
It's a crazy thing to get used to, I'll tell you that. When you come up off of a run and yawn, then you know that maybe your life's gone a weird direction.
Luke Joseph Ciccini from Italy is our next slider, a 54.96 in heat number 1. He had a first run start of 4.97, does the exact same thing here. So 2 4.97 starts for the Italian Ciccini.
This is a tough track to come to for inexperienced sliders because most tracks in the world are built on multi-pressure turns. And this track is very unique in that there's few multi-pressure turns, and really it's just tight transitions and work one after another. Makes it for a big home track advantage because you can just relax, whereas everyone else is expecting and trying to steer too much.
9.8% grade, 19 turns for skeleton sliders here in this one. This track is intimidating, one of the toughest ones in the world. I mean, it's got names like Cliffside and Devil's Highway and the Labyrinth. So it's intimidating.
You got a lot of pressure on the end of 17 there. To put it in perspective, a track like Park City has 14 turns. Placid has 20 in the same distance.
Back with more sliding here in Lake Placid after this.
Presented by
So the Italian, Ciccini from Italy, lays down a pretty good run for his our second person. This is Raphael Meyer from Austria, currently sitting in the 18th spot. The Italian Ciccini is your new leader with a 1:49.56, just overtook Sasahara.
He can't possibly be too experienced on this track, and so that's where you can get into trouble. If, like I was talking about, if you're used to multi-pressure turns, you can make steers here where you don't need to. And the problem is, like I was telling you about for your skeleton debut, if you steer in the wrong spot, it is so much worse than not steering at all.
Meyer gives him a little bit of work to do now, a few hundreds behind the pace.
Meyer on course right now. 5.26 start for him here in this one, a little slower than his start in that first run.
He was pretty late into 4 there and got a lot of height dive bombing out that can mess up your Devil's Highway.
That's a normal statement.
Right. A lot of height there and shady. That's a huge turn. I was actually hanging out with a group of school kids just before this heat, and they asked me, do you get scared in that huge turn? And I said, no, you can't see it all. I always had my head buried, so it would have been pretty terrifying if you could actually see how high you are, and then you make the mistake of steering when you don't need to.
Meyer comes off real high there, 2,600s back, so he's gaining a little speed. Now he's ahead. So he will move into first, and we find that a little bit of a time warp exists at the bottom of this track. But Meyer from Austria is your new leader, a 1:49.54. He overtakes it from the Italian Ciccini.
All right, watch as we're coming out of turn 14 into the not-so-straight straightaway. He hits that first chicane, and he hits it in a major way. You can see the ice kicking up back there. But that's not too bad if you don't hit too hard, and you can take a tap, a nice light tap, that'll set you up for 17.
Back at the top, this is Ben Sanford from New Zealand. 54.86 to kick things off for him in that first heat. Here he goes now, 4th to go in heat number 2.
Now, you would think that in a sport like this that you would have very specific specialized bodies that are more aerodynamic and are going to do better than others. But here you've got Ben Sanford, who is the tallest guy on tour. And, you know, theoretically shorter is going to be more aerodynamic, but then you've got someone like Ben that can just make it work.
Back by about, just a little, about 100 back. See if he picks up any time here through the Devil's Highway.
very experienced on this track. Something Lake Placid is awesome about is opening up the ice to the small nations and giving them as much time here as they need.
Losing time a little bit now, picks up a little bit, going about 74 miles an hour. That's the fastest speeds we've seen so far.
The best chicane, so with that speed and that chicane, he should be able to gain some speed and time here.
Let's see if he does it. Into that final, cross the line, and he won't. He does move himself into a tie for second.
It's Coach Terry Holland there that we saw on camera. He is actually the person that started the Women's Australian Skeleton program from scratch. Brought 8 girls out and just kicked them off the hill.
Incredible. Get another look here at the replay.
That turn 14, what Ben does perfect here is he carried just enough pressure left. He steered enough to stay right. I'm sorry, it's my left, but to stay on that left side of the track, and then that's your best shot at lacing the chicane.
Back up top, this is Sean Greenwood from Ireland. Sean had a 54.86 in that first heat, a 5:24 opener. He opens here with a 5:21.
So that gives him a brief lead, 17/100ths of a
Might
second.
seem odd that you don't see an Irish slider too much on tour, but I believe it was Lord Clifton Bobsleigh that won a medal in skeleton debut in 2002, an Irish slider.
History. I like it.
Sound like John Morgan with some numbers.
John Morgan would be proud. Greenwood, proud right now, looking good. He is ahead of the count at the moment, just about even with it, excuse me. But has been in the lead from the beginning, loses a little time here.
You can see him just working too hard in that area that gets so tricky, the part that you're scared of, turn 12. You know, you'll see athletes just steering out of protection, just really self-preservation steers is what you're steering through there.
Turn 12, right in the middle of the labyrinth. 3 quick curves in succession, and Greenwood will come across 3100ths back, a 54.99, slower than his first run, and good for a current position of 5th with a 149.85.
You know, if you're relatively new to this track, it is scary, especially in this portion that we're seeing him fly off a 12 there. You're going to get tight. So not only are your steers getting more stiff, but you're stiffening up on the sled. And the more separate you ride from that sled, it's just going to slow you down.
Four-man bobsled. Very busy weekend here at Mount Van Overberg. Glad you can join us.
There we see him coming out of 14. Oh, he just needed to steer a little bit harder at the peak. See him drop out and brush that right wall.
So Meyer is your leader here in Placid. Welcome back. Christian Bromley from Great Britain, currently sitting in 15th. And there's that name we've mentioned a couple of times. He is the man behind a lot of this equipment, and poetically, his sled, well, built by him. Bromley now on course here. He opens up a little quicker than he did. Wow, 5:09 open here for him.
It's a great push. He is someone that is so technical and really knows a lot. Obviously, you know a lot about the sport if you are building sleds that other nations want to buy, knowing that you're not giving them your best stuff, because why would you?
I hope so, right? Oh, beat up a little bit right there. He was coming hot out of that turn. Looks like he regains it a little here.
A lot of the time when you see those limbs flying, that's because the athletes are super relaxed on the sled. They'll catch weird pressure. The turn will force them one way or the other, and then just the limbs just flying around everywhere.
The man they call Dr. Ice in the lead right now by 2,700. Can he maintain it to jump out in front? We'll see here. Final turn, he's going to drop into that and across the line. No, he loses the speed. Again, it's just a surprise. Some guys are picking up speed in that final little drop-off. Other people are losing it. He loses it right there, and currently now is off the podium back in 4th. Just that little margin is enough to knock you down quite a bit. So it is Meyer, Sassini, Sanford, and Bromley. Well, Bromley's in that 4th spot because Sassini and Sanford are tied for 2nd.
Right, and we're talking about 500ths here separating 4 sleds. It's crazy with all the variations in equipment, push, body, steering style that it can come down to, you know, just hundredths at the bottom. You can see him really leaning there trying to get stable in the chicane.
Matthias Guggenberger from Austria is off next to 54.80 in his first heat. He'll look to improve on that. He does on a start time of 5:07, better than his 5:13 in his first run. And he's trying to improve on that 54.80. Let's see if he can do something here.
It's another one of those races within a race. A lot of times the biggest competition is within a team, not necessarily internationally, because you are competing against your teammates all the time.
He's ahead right now, 48 He's bled since the start. Now through his third. He loses a little bit of time there. It's 3/100ths, but 4,500ths out in front right now for Guggenberger.
Keep an eye on shoulder position. You want to see those shoulders attached to the front of the sled. You can see him stiffening up through the chicanes there. And not only is that making him less, not only is he not riding with the sled, that becomes a sail the more you're bouncing up off and getting really stiff.
He crosses out in front, and Guggenberger becomes your new leader. So the Austrians right now are 1 and 2. Guggenberger jumps ahead of his teammate, who you saw applauding there at the finish line, Meyer. So a 1:49.28 is the new mark. And Matthias Guggenberger from Austria is out in front. A good run for him. Let's take a look back at how he got there.
He hit really early on. That's a surprising time, and that explains time loss. He dropped out of 14 so early that it's impressive that he didn't come out hurt. I've done that before, and you can clock that wall.
Back at the start, this is Eric Nielsen of Canada, currently sitting in the 13th spot, 54.70 during his first run, and he opened with a 5:13. Let's see if the North American can get himself ahead of the Austrians.
It's an interesting start position. Now, Canada has actually the only iced push facility in North America, which is a huge advantage. We spend a lot of time and a lot of money there training because there's nothing that can substitute for ice when you're pushing and practicing in summertime.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous facility located in Calgary at the Canada Olympic Park. It's the Winsport facility, and truthfully, it's got an amazing push track, not only for skeleton and luge, but for bobsled also. There's hockey facilities there, ski jumping. It truly is a remarkable complex for the Canadians.
Holding a lead here, 900ths of a second, a bit high and shady. You can find a lot of speed there as long as you drop out. Ooh, losing time. Taking that left hit, a little bit too much pressure out of 14. Nice high round line in 17 there.
He had been out in front for much of this race, and now into the finish. Let's see if he picks it up or if he loses it. Wow, and he will just lose a little bit, but he just misses the podium, or excuse me, the first spot, and moves himself solely into second. Nielsen with a time of 1:49.34, currently second behind Guggenberger, the Austrian, and ahead of Meyer, in which Guggenberger overtook the lead from.
This is such a tricky sport to watch. I know it was very confusing for my family watching me at the Olympics because you do reverse order on the second heat. So you have all those people telling you, oh, you were about to win gold, and then you didn't. And they take pictures of you in first place. It's tough to wrap your mind around, you know, a time sport and then a reverse order.
It is the top 20, and they do go in reverse order. This is the Japanese slider, Hiratsu Takahashi, a 54.63 for him in that first heat. He opened with a 5:08.
It's a great start, and a start is really important. I mean, obviously you wouldn't have a start if it wasn't important, but that's going to be, especially on this track, can make a big difference. It's not only is it giving you velocity, but it's going to give you more room down the track for error.
Takahashi ahead at that first split. Let's see if he maintains that lead or if he grows on it. Well, he maintains it exactly the same where he was. Out in front by 1/1600ths.
Let's watch his line in shady too. He's crossing up across the letters. That means you see he taps left. That means he's carrying a little bit of pressure out of the turn. What you just saw there was called dropping an anchor. He wanted to make sure that he got on turn 12 early.
So he loses a little bit of time, and now he's back behind the count. By the way, his start was exactly the same, both at 5:08s. Trying to improve on that 54.63 start time, and into the final he will come.
Oh!
Wow.
100th. And in a sport like this, where your body is your sled, it's all one, it's all aerodynamics. You know, you look at that 100th and you're thinking, did I lose? You know, did I lose a piece of tape? There's so many tiny little things that can make that difference.
100th is essentially the length of your fingernail.
Oh.
That is what we're talking about, and that is how razor thin this sport is judged on. Let's see if we can find that 100th.
And why you always trim your fingernails before a race. You can see he's got a great chicane going there, super stable. You want to see the jiggle. You want to see that jiggle because then you know that they're flowing with the sled.
So Takahashi moves himself into second with a little jiggle of his own. Guggenberger is out in front, and the Canadian Nielsen is currently sitting in that third spot. So that is your 1, 2, and 3 right now. We are about midway through the second heat of the men's skeleton in Lake Placid.
Take 2-minute warning to Alexander Krokl, 2 minutes.
So a reminder, this is our last event of the day today, but we do want you to stick around because we have our award ceremony coming up at 4:45 down below. We'll be a little early on that. So come on down and join us. We have all of the events we had earlier today and the events we had this afternoon. We'll be giving the awards for that. Also tomorrow, don't forget, 2-man bobsled, women's bobsled, and on Sunday, women's skeleton and a 4-man bobsled race take place here at Mount Van Overberg. So we're really looking forward to having you back out and see us. A lot of racing left today.
One-minute warning to our next sled. 1-minute warning.
All right, so Bree, midway through the men's skeleton here, and the Americans still to come. John Daly, Matthew Antoine. We will, of course, see the Dukers brothers, as well as Alexander Treshikov.
Russian rocket.
Attention, clear the track. The track is now clear for me finished. Start number 1. Start 1 for Alexander Krokl.
Back in Lake Placid, Alexander Krokl, currently ranked in the 10th spot from Germany. He is next to take on this track as we are midway through the men's second heat. Glad to have you along on a cold day in upstate New York. Nick Gismondi alongside Bree Schaff bringing you this one. Your current leader is Guggenberger from Austria. Takahashi from Japan is in the second spot, and Nielsen from Canada is currently sitting third. But right now, Bree, it is Krokl who is on course here from Germany.
5.13 gives Krokl
Does have a
12
good shot because he is German, and they just seem to breed
Good
sliding sports there. But chances are this is a fairly new track for him, and if you consider yourself a driver, someone that's, you know, skilled and drives a lot on the European tracks, you can get in trouble in Lake Placid because you don't have to work here. It's super subtle. Nice round line there, and really drops perfect out of Shady.
800's out in the front after coming out of Shady.
Then wiping off a 12. And as you watch, you can see it when a sled is wiping sideways. They miss the pressure and just slide off the turn. That's not good for time.
Going about 74 miles an hour here into the final 2 little curves of this track, and he's going to drop into the finish right now in the lead. Huge lead. So the German jumps way out in front by 3,400. It's Krokl now, your new leader, followed by Guggenberger, and Takahashi bumps down to third, knocking the Canadian Nielsen off the podium.
Happy with that run. He could be hanging out in that winner's box for a while.
1:48.94 as we are midway through the second heat here for the men. Krokl lays down a nice one. We're going to get another look at it here. That start was key for him. It was one of his quicker ones, but we'll send you back up top now for Dominic Edward Parsons of Great Britain, currently sitting in the 10th spot. Parsons had a 54.62. He opened up with a 4.95 in that first run. Let's see if he improves on that here. It's actually a little bit slower, but it is the fastest start time here in the second heat with a 4.96.
Great start by Lake Placid standards. You can see him working to get straight and stabilize out of turn 1 there. The ice is really, you break away really easy right now when it's this cold, and if there's a little bit of snow drift in there, it's any little thing can kick you into a skid. Ooh, a slap off of turn 8, that means he went in late there.
2,500s ahead. This track here in Lake Placid is covered. Some snow expected in the forecast tonight. Bree just alluded to what that can do to the track. We'll see if that has anything to do with things as we move through the weekend. But right now, it is bluebird skies on a nice day here in Placid, just a little chilly. Parsons right now still out in front by 1,600s. Will he take over the lead? He slowed down a little and he will not. He is in a tie for second right now, though, with Guggenberger. But Krockel from Germany remains your leader here in Placid.
All right, you can watch him on turn 8 there. That runner slap is pretty rare in skeleton. You've got such a low profile in a skeleton sled that it's much easier to flow with the track, and that takes some, yeah, it's really late entry there. And you can see on his entry into that turn, when the runner looks abrupt, if you can see that on camera, that's time loss.
Great couple of looks right here, and Parsons is in a tie for second right now. All right, back in Lake Placid, Sergei Chudinov from Russia is next up at the top. Nick Gismondi alongside Bree Schaff here, bringing you this one, the second and final heat for the men in the skeleton on a very cold day in upstate New York. Just a little over halfway through all of our sliders here. The Americans still to come. Kyle Tress, John Daly, Matthew Antoine. They all have a chance at a podium. We'll see what they can't do. Right now, the Russian Chudinov trying to improve on his first run time of 54.53. His start a little bit slower, but fastest we've seen here yet today at 4.96.
What we saw is how hard he had to work to get over in parallel to turn 1. He actually dropped a toe, and the fact that we could hear it on audio, we could hear that toe drop, means that he was headed in the wrong direction and really planted those toes to trying to get in turn 1.
Comes off midway through that turn right there, 2,200s ahead, has led the whole way, losing a little bit of time, that lead shrinking a touch, and now a lot. Now he's only 1,400s ahead.
You could see him hammering that steer into 12, trying to get off the turn.
The 30-year-old from Moscow comes into the final stretch right here, and he will come across, well, a bit back.
1,900s back, 4th place run for that run, knocks him down to 2nd place. That's tough. You could just see him, you know, the problem is if you have one mistake, a lot of times it can compound. If you can't maintain your focus and bring it back, a lot of times it'll just get worse and worse, and you get tighter and tighter and then make more mistakes.
So he does move himself onto a podium, at least for the moment right now, with that time in 2nd place ahead of Guggenberger behind Krockel.
You'll see what we're looking at, a piece of tape flying off of his sled with that abrupt hit out of 3. You can see the bump there under his shoulder, and that's what's supposed to hit the wall first, but of course, then momentum is going to carry your body over, and that's what gets a lot of shoulder burns in skeleton.
John Fairbairn from Canada, currently sitting in the 8th spot, is next up at the top. Our 13th slider to go, a 54.43 back in his first run. That put him in the 9th spot. Let's see what he opens up with here. He opened up with a 5.08 in that first run, and he improves on it considerably, a 5 spot for him.
And you'll notice how much he eased the sled out of the start there. The timing eye does not actually start until 15 meters down the track. You have all the time to accelerate into the first split. And a lot of times you may not want to explode off the block, especially if that groove is getting a little bit shallow and touchy and you're risking popping it.
4,700s ahead. Coming up on that next split, let's see if he jumps up a little bit more right here. I think he will. Looks like he is. Yeah, gained some time too. 4,900s ahead. He has steadily improved through all 3 splits so far, coming up to this 4th one.
Looking right through Shady. Steered so hard in 12, you can see his foot come up there as you're hammering your knee into the sled. Ooh, laced the chicane. That was great.
4,900s ahead. Let's see if he's got it here into the finish. Could this be your new leader? John Fairbairn from Canada to the line. Will he gain time or lose it? He gains it, and he's out in front.
Look at that time.
3,800s. So a little bit of celebration there in the finish line, and the Canadian, John Fairbairn, is out in front as your new leader.
That's a time that would have put him in 3rd place on the first heat. It's always tough to tell what the ice conditions are doing, but that's why the Canadians are very happy with that downtime.
So we are through 13 here in Lake Placid. There are a few left, and now we start to get into the heart of the order. We'll talk about that in a second, but let's take a look back at John Fairbairn's run here.
All right, you notice you have to be careful when you load the sled. It's much easier to kind of set your knee down first, but that does risk popping the groove.
It's never advised.
No.
Kyle Tress, the American, in the 14th spot right now, a 54.21 in his first run. He opened with a 5.16. Let's see if he can repeat that here, maybe get a little better. Yeah, he does. Well, the 5.16, excuse me, was the exact same start time as before, but this is the 10th best start we've seen so far here. Can Kyle make it onto the podium with a good run?
He's got a lot of experience here. He actually started at the same skeleton school 11 years ago. I maybe should have avoided that number, but he lived down the hall from me. We called him Rock and Roll Kyle because he brought his guitar, and he's just a wonderful person to watch side. He's so much fun, and really hoping for a great finish here. And you can see his comfort. He's not working as hard in the turns, but he's only 400ths in the lead. Ooh, it steered a little bit hard and caught that left wall in the chicane. We'll see how much it slows him down.
See if Tress loses a lot of time on that or not. We'll tell you right here in a second as he drops into the finish. He's out in front right now. Oh! Just off!
Oh!
Just off! Kyle Tress finishes in just 2nd right now. He sits in 2nd.
Oh, he forgot to cut his fingernails last night.
By 100.
We were riding that on his sled. Oh, that is brutal, but there is still a chance. I mean, he's got some stellar athletes in front of him, but you want to hope that someone does bad, but you do kind of hang out there and think, well, if someone drops back, I'm cool with that.
A 148.57 for Kyle Tress.
Right there.
That was the 100th.
Oh, yeah. Bummer.
So he currently sits in 2nd behind the Canadian Fairbairn, and Krockel, the German, is in 3rd. This is Martins Dukers from Latvia, currently ranked in the 6th spot. He had a 54.21 to start things off in heat number 1. A very fast start, the 2nd fastest of that heat, a 4.91. Let's see what he opens with here.
His start is what makes him so unstoppable, and he is someone right now, 488. Oh, yeah. He's someone that could just crush this. He's made the sport look silly for a few years now, so it's interesting to see him not in the #1 position.
How does that play mentally? Obviously, knowing you're not in that spot, you see him coming off the walls a little bit right there in the normal spot, but he's got to mentally overcome the fact that he's not in the top 3 sleds.
Right. I mean, I suppose if you're getting that used to winning, you can get a bit complacent. So this could be something that maybe just, fires him up again and revs him up to go back to winning everything. 2200ths ahead of the pace. He will maintain. The question is how much speed. Ooh, that's not going to help him.
Lot of sloppiness right there in that last turn. Let's see if he can hold on into the finish line right now. You're going to see him drop in. Can Martin Dukers take over the lead?
Wow.
He will not. He is in 3rd and doesn't even overtake the American Kyle Tress. So Fairbairn remains your leader. Tress in 2nd, Dukers in 3rd. So Martin Dukers will get a look at his replays here, Bree.
He drops out. You can gain some speed in 14 if you don't do much and really rock it out of there, but the risk is taking that right hit, and it just sends him into a huge skid. This is so unlike Martin's, but of course, personally, I'm happy because I'm seeing my former teammate Kyle Tress get a top 6, which is a great finish for him.
Back at the top, this is Martin's brother. This is Tomas. Back in Lake Placid, Martins Dukers, you just saw, finished back in the 3rd spot. This is his brother, Tomas Dukers from Latvia. On a cold evening in Lake Placid. Glad to have you along. Bree Schaff and Nick Gismonde bringing you this one from Mount Van Hovenberg. 54.18 is what Tomas opened up with. A 4.94 to start this one off. Good time. See if he can beat that overall run time of 54.18.
Looking pretty good. You want to watch the sled and just everything should flow very smoothly. Anything abrupt, then you're watching them lose time.
Ahead right now, 3900ths out in the front. Let's see if we can pick up on that. This is where we see a little bit of time lost
great exit of Shady, but he went a little bit late into 12.
And he does lose a little time. 3,400s ahead right now, trying to chase down Fairbairn from Canada, and Kyle Tress, the American, sitting in second. Tomas's brother Martins is sitting in third, and into the finish. Will he get him?
Wow.
He will! So Dukers, Tomas takes over the lead from Latvia. He is out in front. Kyle Tress moves down to the third spot.
I do not know the last time Tomas beat Martins. It's, you know, I guess that's kind of a sibling thing. You know, when you have an established relationship and it gets shaken up like this, you wonder, is there going to be, you know, some brother trouble
Awkward.
tonight? Awkward. Super awkward in that hotel room.
Awkward.
Hey, I'm the one that wins.
Good look at the replays right here. You see Tomas coming off of that curve.
Oh.
He is your new leader.
See his shoulder flying up there as he comes off 12.
Okay, back at the start now. This is the Russian Alexander Trechikov, the World Cup leader. Trechikov had a 54.15 in his heat number 1. Let's see if he improves on that. He had the fastest start of that heat as well at 4.76. Here in the second run, he improves at 4.74, so he's off to a good one already.
Of course, nicknamed the Russian Rocket. What's fascinating watching him push is it's not like you're seeing crazy fast turnover. It's all about smooth acceleration. We're talking about ice, but already you're seeing his legs fly all around. This is his struggle always, just maintaining composition on the sled.
His start was just 200ths off the record here at Placid. Right now, he's 2100ths ahead in this run. Loses a little bit of time right there. 15th.
With this sticky ice, that is a really impressive start. You can see what we saw there was him steering before the pressure even occurred on that turn. He did a huge safety steer in 12, slamming left out of 14.
All right, so I'm hearing that is now a tie for the track record for a start right there of 4.74. He is ahead. He is ahead of the count right now. Let's see if he moves into first, and he does. Trechikov, your new leader, a 1:48.21. He takes over from Tomas Dukers, and that bumps the American Kyle Tress off of the podium and into the 4th spot. The Canadian, who led for a short time, John Fairbairn, is holding on in the 3rd spot at the moment.
Oh, you see, he came out way early out of 14 there, and of course that's gonna, you knock right, then that leads to a knock left and another knock right. It's just really sets you ping-ponging down that straightaway, and that's uphill. That's gonna kill your speed.
All right, so the World Cup leader is now the leader here in Lake Placid with 3 slatters to go, beginning with Frank Rommel from Germany, a 54.13 in his first heat. You know, an interesting start for him. It wasn't great. A 5.15 was his start time, and he did slip a little, so he's going to be looking to improve on that. Maybe that is why he was down in that 3rd spot. So the logic says if he improves on his start, can he maintain that throughout the course?
Yes, absolutely. And also not to mention the added psychological motivation of having something like that. When you mess up, you've got an injury, something holding you back, there's something about it that makes it easier to get after that second run.
All right, so now can he overtake Trechikov, who threw down the lead?
A lot of times the second run is a vendetta run. People come out, are not happy with their first run, and it gives them just the fire they need to come out and lay it down.
One thing that is well known about Rommel is that he has big speed at the very bottom of the track. We've seen that be a little bit of a back and forth here. Some guys are picking it up, some guys are losing it. He's going to need that big speed. He is 5,500ths back of it right now.
Right, I don't know if he lost the password or what happened here, because he is still so far behind. A great chicane, but that's not going to help him. There's not enough track.
He picks up a little bit of time, but not much. 5,300ths back right now. He is running out of track and time. He's going to come across, and he will not overtake. He does, however, move himself into the podium a little bit. So he does pick up some time at the end. Wow, a lot of time at the end. So that speed does come through. He finishes only 1,800ths back of the lead. So Rommel now finds himself onto the podium, and that basically guarantees Trechikov at least a bronze medal, if not better.
And Rommel with a top 5 guarantee. Here we are in curve 3. This is a really tough turn in any sled because it banks so hard left, and you have not enough speed to really grab some control there, which is why you're always going to see a tap left, but that can set you up perfect for 4.
So 2 sliders left to go, and they are the Americans. It is John Daly going first, and then Matthew Antoine going second. John Daly said that Americans should win on this track. It's their home track. They've been here for 13 years sliding together, and Daly is off and running. A 53.93 in his first heat. He does not improve on his start time. A 5:01 here for him, and he's behind the counter early on.
Looking very calm and cool on his sled. You can see the confidence. You can see that home track advantage. There's no hesitation in that delicate top part of the track.
John Daly back by 700s, but picking up a little bit of time, and now he's ahead by 200s.
Oh, you saw that late height and shady caused him to get sucked back up on the other turn. A lot of height in 12 there, losing a little bit of time, but if he can really calm down, he can make it happen.
Chasing that time, he's 300s back. Bree, I can feel your excitement. Will he overtake Tretiakov, the Russian, on his home track here? The Olympics just 50 days away, and he comes across in third.
Still a great finish for Daly. You know that he wanted to be on that podium, but that is not a bad finish.
So he lost time there, and he is currently on the podium. Daly sits in that 3rd spot behind Dukers, who is in 2nd, and Tretiakov, who is still your leader. And that will basically also guarantee Dukers a medal. Tomas Dukers, a medal for the first time in a very long time. Daly still hustling, trying to come across, trying to get that first win in the World Cup circuit.
You can see a piece of tape on his sled just flapping in the wind there.
All right, Matthew Antoine. He came into this ranked in the first position, a 53.89. He laid down a great first run. He had a 5:03 opener. It was the 9th fastest at the time. That 53.89 put him in this final position. He knows what he's got to do. Got to beat Tretiakov. The time is 1:48.21. If he wants to get on the podium, he's going to have to knock off his teammate, John Daly. Okay. Is off and running. He opens with a 5.01.
He is
faster than his start time in round 1.
This is another person you're going to see that confidence of a home track. Very calm, very cool at the top there. Not losing any stability in those top turns where it can get a little skittish.
Behind right now, but not by much, just 100. Now he's ahead by 1100s.
This is times where it is so hard for me to announce because I'm so tied to my teammates and friends. I'm just sitting here just with my fist clenched. This is such a great run for Matt.
Well, he is looking for his first ever gold medal. He's going about 75 miles an hour. He's 2100ths ahead into the final turn. Can he do it? Antoine, huge! The American Matthew Antoine comes away with his first ever goal, a time of 1:47.58.
Matt has dealt with so much in these last couple years with the knee surgery and really fighting to come back on tour too early. That is so cool. You can feel that satisfaction. This is home track. He started sliding here. You know, all of these guys. Talk about brotherly love. They are all so supportive of each other and have such a good time that you know they're going to be celebrating this awesome American finish.
Yes. He has literally gone down this track thousands of times, and he lays it down here, overtaking Tretiakov, the Russian, for the win in the gold medal. There's a hug from his teammate. You see right there, John Daly just misses the podium, finishes in that 4th spot. Tomas Dukers comes away with his first medal in quite some time in that 3rd spot, and Tretiakov again will have to settle for silver. But what a great ride from Matthew Antoine.
Oh, you can see it with his sigh right there, says it all. What a relief. He has wanted this on this track for so long. He's one of those students of the sport, just quietly studying and finding time in every little spot that he can.
So he finishes 6,300ths ahead, and we'll get one more look at the gold medal winning run by Matthew Antoine, his first ever.
Wow, and just watching this run, he found so much time. It's one thing to win by a little bit, but he just laid it down on this second heat. He didn't win, he dominated. So exciting to see for this American athlete.
And a strong finish for Matthew Antoine as he comes away with the gold and a big fist bump from Coach. And that's a nice win right there, replicated by Matthew Antoine. He does overtake it, and he knew what he had to do at the start. He manages a really solid final run, improving as well on that first run time. He was a 53.89 in that first run. He finds some more speed of 53.69. So Matthew Antoine is your gold medalist. Alexander Trechikov finishes in second, and Tomas Dukers from Latvia finishes in third. Martins Dukers finishes down the list quite a ways in that 8th spot. He's obviously figuring out some things. When we come back, we'll talk to the winners here in Lake Placid, but Matthew Antoine gets it done for the States. Leave me yet.
Turn your viewfinders off too hard. Turn the viewfinders off. What's the protest? What?
Back in Lake Placid at the legendary Mount Van Hovenberg, and the results are in. You see the World Cup standings as they are right now. Alexander Trechikov is the current leader. Martins Dukers is in the 2nd spot, and Matthew Antoine picks up big points and is in 3rd with 593, not too far back from overtaking things there. He was the big winner here today. Matthew Antoine finishes ahead of the count. 147.58 for him to give him the gold. Trechikov finished in silver, was leading until that final sled come through, and it was Antoine who overtook. Dukers finished down in the 3rd position ahead of his brother Martin. Flower ceremony going on right now down in front of us here. As you get a look at this gorgeous track and the end of sliding here on day 1, and a great look here at our winner Matthew Antoine, who comes away with the gold medal. Just a terrific performance by him, Bree.
I mean, talk about taking advantage of a home track advantage. This was such an incredible performance by Matt Antoine. You can see he's one of the taller athletes on tour. Super lanky, really aerodynamic.
This is a good look at his run here.
And watch how his shoulders are relaxed, his toes are together. Form is really big in skeleton. It's all about being one and zen with that sled. And Matt looks so comfortable. You wouldn't think that he's, you know, just rocketing his body off of a mountain here.
He was going about 75 miles an hour down through this one. His start improved, and so does his time at 53.89 in his first run, of 53.69 in his second. And that is the look of a man who just came away with his first gold medal, and a big win for him as he knocks off some pretty heavy hitters to get there. The Dukers, his brothers, as well as Trechikov and teammate John Daly. He also bested Frank Rommel from Germany, who finished quite a ways down in the count in that 5th position. But the big stat is that Matthew Antoine came away as your winner. He is the gold medalist, right behind, ahead of Trechikov and Dukers, and our John Morgan is with all 3 of them right now. John?
Okay, down here for the interviews, Thomas Dukers, your first medal of the season. You felt comfortable on this track?
I felt okay, but I was a bit surprised that I saw crappy runs get on podium. Yeah, but I like this track.
Well, congratulations, bronze medal, good start, and we go over to the Russian Rocket. And was he happy with his runs?
Ты доволен своей гонкой?
Да, конечно, доволен. 2 место, Lake Placid для меня хороший результат, поэтому я счастлив.
Yeah, I'm very glad. The 2nd place in Lake Placid is a very good result for me. I'm happy.
Yeah. Congratulations. Now we go to Matt Antoine. Congratulations, Matt. First time ever gold medal for you up here on your home track. You won by 63/100ths of a second, dude. I mean, did you realize you were going that fast?
I knew I was putting together a good run. I was disappointed in my first run. Everyone kept asking why I looked so mad at the finish line even though I was in first, because I knew I made a lot of mistakes up top that cost time. I cleaned them up on the 2nd run, and you know, the result was there. But honestly, I'm a little beside myself right now. This is a great moment for me.
First time in a long time for men's skeleton in the United States to win a good medal, gold medal. Congratulations to everybody.
All right, so there you have it, your 1, 2, and 3. Matthew Antoine comes away with the gold. Alexander Trechikov, the silver, and Tomas Dukers comes away with the bronze. All in all, a very impressive podium. Maybe not the speeds as were alluded that they were looking for, but a great podium and a huge win for Matthew Antoine.
And a big shakeup for the usual results here on the World Cup Tour. Really, really fun racing today.
And what does that set up for the Olympic Games as we are just literally over 50 days away from the opening ceremonies
in Sochi?
That is? That's
a little bit of spark of belief and hope for these other athletes that are thinking, oh, Martins has it in the bag. Now we know he doesn't have it in the bag. It could be anyone's ball game here.
It is about pressure. It is about finding the speed, sometimes at the bottom of the track and sometimes at the top. But the American, who's been down this literally thousands of times, finds the speed from the top to the bottom. Matthew Antoine wins the gold here in Lake Placid. For Bree Shaw, I'm Nick Viessmann. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.